Max Lucado says that conflict is inevitable, but combat is optional. What do you think about that? My name's Antoinette and I go live every Sunday and just share with you whatever has been percolating in my brain in that particular week. So with just 6 more weeks to go of this particular series, I've realised we finish on Christmas Eve. Nice. It feels apt to be reflecting on this topic of conflict on Remembrance Sunday, when my brain turns to not only the major world wars that have happened in our history, but the current wars that are happening all over the world today as well. And that's quite a kind of macro perspective. And I think what I am going to land talking about becomes micro in the end. So I think it's fair to say that we all experience conflict at some point. Some of us more than others. I know that I've been dealing with a conflict on a number of fronts lately, and I've been wondering what makes some situations escalate beyond repair, and what makes others rebound towards peace and reconciliation. So the Oxford Dictionary defines conflict as a serious disagreement or argument which is typically protracted. So not just a skirmish in the kitchen with your partner or a little bit of tutting at your neighbour as they've parked in your parking space. It's serious, it's long, and often quite bitter as well. And I know for me that I've experienced conflict in every sphere: at work, at church, within friendships, family. It sounds like I'm just kind of like a regular warmonger, doesn't it? But that's the reality of living a life on this earth, I guess. And considering that I'm actually conflict averse, that just shows how commonly we can default to arguing as a means of solving differences. And the challenge is that while a good rant, a good bit of passive-aggressive silence, a blistering email or troll-like post or out-and-out fist fight, I wish I could reduce myself to that sometimes. I think I might feel better for it, she jests. Full-blown warfare, while that may feel good in the short term, it often doesn't solve the underlying problem. And worse, the fallout of our aggression, our thirst to be right or to seek revenge or to gain power or possessions, can have devastating and often lifelong consequences. And so my question, I've got many questions, but one of my questions is, how many conflicts are you currently involved in? And is it solving your original problem? It's a challenging balancing act, isn't it? Because it doesn't mean that we can't and shouldn't disagree. It doesn't mean that we must not challenge unjust, irrational, or unsafe situations. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't challenge people or behaviour that goes against the grain of supporting society. It doesn't mean that we shouldn't protect those we love or what is ours. But where do we draw that line? And is there a way to disagree well? And is there a way to challenge each other well? So when we as individuals and then collectively as a society yearn for a world, yearn for relationships where our default is to give rather than to take, to understand first rather than to treat others with suspicion, to seek compromise over our total power or our own power, to think of the greater good rather than our own individual lusts and desires, I think only then will we flourish deeply. And then is when we'll realise that there is enough to go around. And then we'll remember that we're interconnected and that, like a circle of dominoes, when one gets tapped down, inevitably all of us fall. Sadly, I don't think that we're going to get there this side of heaven. The thing is, influencing our leaders to take a peaceful path may seem really out of our grasp, but we can control and influence ourselves and our own insular narrative. As Marvin Gaye says, war is not the answer. I came across the acronym C.A.R.E on a youth golfing website of all places, and it's 4 steps to help to resolve conflict. And it's the acronym C.A.R.E. So the first is to communicate with openness, and with that kind of seeking a desire to resolve things rather than escalate things. To actively listen. I've talked about listening before in Sunday Soul Search and just how poor we are as human beings at that. But to listen to what the other person has to say without interrupting and with a desire to seek understanding. To review the options, to talk over all the options, to get outside your own narrow box and your own sort of, this is my corner and this is the way I want to solve this problem, but to look more broadly at all the solutions that are available that also benefit everybody in this conflict, and ultimately to end with a win-win situation, because that's the thing that's likely to maintain peace in the long term. I mean, in the end, it's love that wins. Love wins, right? When we care about the person that we're in conflict with, when we can see the wider impact on the planet and even the people around us as we argue without care, as we understand, even like on a selfish note, the build-up of toxic hormones within our own fragile frames as we argue protractedly, love has got to win. So I challenge me, I challenge you, I challenge us to care this week, to C.A.R.E, to care more, to seek peace, to seek joy. I'd love to see your comments on this below. I'm not a political person. I often have a dim grasp of why people go out to war. I don't see all the complex situations and reasons behind it. So answers down below, you know the drill. And I've popped 2 links in as well. The one to this golfing website and a bit of Marvin, just to ease you out of Sunday. Have a great week, y'all. See you next Sunday.